Hello, good evening, and thanks so much for staying there. This is the Eid edition of News at 10. My name is Bright Nanamfo. Thanks so much for joining us. First, let's look at some highlights of the day's news. President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo says government is committed to ensuring all religious bodies worship in peace and harmony. Speaking at the 2017 Eid prayers at the Independence Square in Accra, the president encouraged Muslims to take advantage of the free senior high school program to educate particularly the girl child. Of course, Muslims marking Eid throughout the country. The president was at the Independence Square in Accra. The vice president was in Kumasi. The chief executive officer of the Mental Health Authority, Dr. Akwesi Osei, has reiterated the need to repeal the criminal code which prescribes incarceration for attempted suicide. He is of the view depression, which can lead to suicide, also stems from socioeconomic factors, and until the country's economy is on the right track, the situation will be no different. He's suggesting a repeal of the act. The Deputy Works and Housing Minister, Frida Prempeh, has given a 3-month ultimatum to persons who have overstayed in government bungalows unduly and illegally to vacate. After an inspecting tour in Koforidua, the Deputy Minister warned that the 3-month period is a human phase the ministry is resorting to, after which drastic measures would be taken to get rid of those there. On the international front, Kenya's Supreme Court has declared Uhuru Kenyatta's victory in last month's presidential elections invalid and ordered a new poll within 60 days. The decision to nullify the results, the first in an African setup, a new race for the presidency between Kenyatta and the veteran opposition leader Raila Odinga. We'll tell you more about that later on. And of course, this bulletin is live on 3FM 92.7. If you're watching us from wherever across the country and beyond, we're grateful for your time. Now, let's take our first story. President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo says government is committed to ensuring all religious bodies worship in peace and harmony. Speaking at the 2017 Eid prayers at the Black Star Square in Accra, the president encouraged Muslims to take advantage of the free senior high school program to educate particularly the girl child.
The sacred Islamic festival is to mark the willingness of Abraham to follow Allah's command to sacrifice his son Ismail. Special prayers were later offered for the nation. Chairman of the Planning Committee, Alhaji Alhassan Sule, gave an assurance that Muslims across the country will live in harmony to promote development.
The Ghanaian Muslims are fully resolved to continue to live in peace with one another and to continue to maintain high levels of personal discipline and tolerance with one another.
President Akufo-Addo said religious tolerance is key in engendering growth and effective development.
My government is committed to maintaining the atmosphere that allows people of all religious persuasions to practice their religion without let or hindrance. One of the many things about Ghana which our nation can be proud of is the peace and mutual respect that exists amongst people of all religious persuasions who live here. I urge you to continue to be ambassadors of peace. In a world where the beautiful religion of Islam has virtually been hijacked by people who pervert its values, every Muslim should make it his or her responsibility to be an example of what it means to be Muslim.
The president called on Muslims to take advantage of the free SHS program.
I believe that Muslims should embrace this policy because it allows the fulfillment of prophetic admonishment. It allows us to enlighten our communities and bring illumination to our society. It allows us to guarantee a future for our children and our country.
6,350 pilgrims moved from Ghana to participate in the pilgrimage this year. The Hajj is an annual Islamic pilgrimage to Mecca and a mandatory religious duty for Muslims that must be carried out at least once in their lifetime. And this is exactly why over 6,000 Ghanaians are there, far away Saudi Arabia, performing the Hajj. Right, so we're taking you to Mina in Saudi Arabia. Hajia Miriam Sise is a Deputy Hajj Communications Director. She just joined me on the phone lines. Good evening. Perhaps it's morning there, but it's evening here in Ghana. But how are Ghanaians on this year's Hajj doing?
Good evening, Bright. Ghanaians are doing well, and we would want to say Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. We are almost coming to the end of this religious exercise because currently we are in Mina. We came to Mina today, and inshallah by Sunday, programs would leave to Mecca where we perform the last ritual, and then we will start preparing to come back to Ghana. And I would say the exercise has been rigorous and quite challenging because the weather this time around is terrible. We are recording almost 42, 32, 45 degrees Celsius. So one would have to be taking a lot of water in order not to be dehydrated. So basically, I would say the exercise today went on well. And we encountered some few challenges, but that has been sorted out. We had a few programs who were left behind, but the medical department swiftly acted, and most of our programs are now back to camp, and everything is normal here.
I see. There were reports of some accommodation challenges. Is it indeed the case, and how has it been resolved?
Well, Bright, I would want to take advantage of this, your platform, to clear the air. We have been informed about some miscommunication on some networks, to be specific, CTFM, indicating that they had information from the communication direct line, specifically myself, that we had programs sleeping under bridge. That is totally not true, and such a communication did not occur between myself and CTFN. What actually I responded to was the same question you've just asked me. And then I did indicate that, yes, we had some programs sleeping out of our tent, but the reasons are multifaceted, and that's one of the main reasons was that this does not rest at the doorstep of the Hajj board. No. It is from the Saudi authorities. And this directive came 2 days before we left Mecca to Mina. And in fact, the board established their displeasure. But then the information we had is that the Saudi authorities did indicate that it doesn't affect only Ghana. It affects every country that is embarking on Hajj this year because of the overwhelming numbers they received from the country. So therefore, every country would have to do some little adjustments. And basically, if you have been following stories that has to do with the organization of Hajj, you would realize that the second reason, which has to do with Ghanaians who are residents in Saudi Arabia, usually it is an opportunity for them to come closer to our programs. Some come for their business purposes, others also just come to perform Hajj, especially some who also don't have legal documentation. So they just come and they're mixed up with our programs. Usually the problem confronted is that they enter our tent and deprive our programs the comfort of using the tent because, you know, in Mina, there are no buildings. It's just a landscape where you have mountains, and it's only tents that are mounted for all programs that come to Mina. This time around, our problem was even compounded because we realized that some of these programs, some of the residents who usually invade our tents, manage to produce fake cards. Fake ID cards that we usually give to our programs from Ghana. And then also, there is also a hand bundle that they manage to also print out. So it became really a problem. But today, as I speak to you, we were able to evict hundreds of them out of our camp because we realized that the situation had to be taken care of. And these are some of the measures. But this is a problem that runs through every year. Subsequently, or thirdly, the other reason why others opted to sleep out of the tent is because of the weather. Despite the air conditioners being on, the weather was too hot, and others just felt that they wanted fresh air. So just came out and had their mattresses outside and laid on their mattresses. So these are the very three reasons why you did indicate that you have reports that we had some of our programs out of our camps. And it is still within that jurisdiction that was earmarked for Hajj programs. It's not like they were outside, as indicated by City FM that are under bridges. And, it might interest you to know that the picture, even that was used for that reportage, was a picture that we had, I think, about 2010 had. And I think that was unfair. Wasn't. That is not a situation on the ground, not at all.
All right. Hajia, we're grateful. Wish you all the best and safe journey back to Accra. Hajia Miriam Cisse is a Deputy Hajj Communications Director there, talking from Mina in Saudi Arabia. This is News at 10 on TV3 and also on 3FM 92.7. Let's step on the brakes for now. When we come back, we'll tell you exactly what happened in Kenya, the Supreme Court decision on the elections, and some commentary on that. Stay with us. We're back in a moment. Welcome back. Now, let's get to Kenya. Now, that country's Supreme Court has declared Uhuru Kenyatta's victory in last month's presidential elections invalid and ordered a new poll within 60 days. The decision to nullify the results, the first in Africa, sets up a new race for the presidency between Uhuru Kenyatta and opposition leader Raila Odinga. Now, let's watch this News Desk report.
Raila Odinga, after his defeat last month, opposition officials repeatedly described the results as a fraud and claimed that Odinga, who leads the National Super Alliance, was the legitimate winner. The six-judge bench ruled 4-2 in favor of Odinga, who claimed the electronic voting results were hacked and manipulated in favor of the incumbent. The judges decided the Election Commission failed, neglected, or refused to conduct the presidential election in a manner consistent with the dictates of the Constitution and ordered a new poll within 60 days. They did not blame Kenyatta or his party. Uhuru Kenyatta had won a second term with 54% of the vote. Kenyatta accepted the court's decision and called for peace. Raila Odinga, on the other hand, said the court has set an exceptional example for all of Africa. Odinga has contested the last 3 elections.
And the man who won the election has reacted to the Supreme Court ruling. Now, he says that he disagrees with the ruling, but he is suggesting that he will accept whatever was said.
That it is important for us as Kenyans to be respecters of the rule of law. I personally disagree with the ruling that has been made today, but I respect it. Millions of Kenyans queued, made their choice, and 6 people have decided that they will go against the will of the people. Fellow Kenyans, I say peace are ready to go back again to the people with the same agenda. No change. Same agenda that we delivered to the people.
And of course, Mr. Raila Odinga has also responded. But TV3's correspondent Joseph Warungu, who monitored the Kenyan polls, told Midday Live that the problem with the polls had to do with what happened during transmission of results to the headquarters of the Independent Electoral and Boundary Commission.
An election in Africa, especially in Kenya, is in two parts. There is the going to cast your ballot. Then there is what happens after people have gone home and the county begins. I was there as a voter and as a journalist for TV3, and the process was absolutely spot on. You know, it was free and fair. People turned out, they voted. So the voters, Kenyans gave their opinion. Okay. It is what happened after that. Okay. Yeah, so we had more than 5,000 observers and more than 200 international journalists. It is what happened after that that became a problem, especially in the transmission of the results. And I've just looking at the judgment here, where one of the things that the opposition had an issue with was the way the Constitution, what the Constitution demands of how you relay the results. Once they are counted at the polling station and it is announced, whatever is announced at the polling station and at the constituency level is actually final. But the way they relayed, the commission did not wait, the Electoral Commission, to receive those results. Their job is just to do mathematics, not analysis. Okay. Just add them together. And they started announcing before they received all that. So they were saying, you're announcing on what basis? And I think, you know, it's the ruling is that this was unconstitutional. Okay.
Joseph Warungu is TV3's reporter who covered the Kenyan elections. Now, some hours after the Supreme Court verdict, a freelance journalist in Kenya, Emmanuel Yegon, told News 360 that the mood in Kenya was calm and people were waiting the final decision by the Electoral Commission.
Right now, everything is back to normal after a day of a lot of jubilation across the country following the annulment of the presidential results that was done by the Supreme Court in Kenya. So earlier on, we saw people celebrating, those who were in support of Raila Odinga's NASA coalition. They were celebrating and, you know, to express the joy that they had following the annulment of the results. And they are saying that democracy has won and the voice of the people has been heard by the courts. And at the moment, we've seen even the president, immediately after he made his address, he went to some section of the city for a rally, and he was asking people to remain calm. And after the 60 days, they should go back to the ballot to make the decision, to reaffirm their decision. Just like in other parts of the country, it is calm right now. And even when the celebrations were going on, there was no case where the police, you know, and those who were celebrating clashed. Actually, they were providing security for them and guiding them on the routes that they were supposed to be using. The chair of the commission, that is Wafula Chebukati, distanced himself from, you know, any claims that he was mentioned as being part of the persons or the people, the parties that were mentioned as having violated the electoral laws. And he said he welcomes the office of the Director of Public Prosecutions to prosecute any officer, any commissioner in the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission who was engaged in electoral malpractice.
Freelance journalist Emmanuel Yegon speaking early on News 360. Away from Kenya, President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo says government will continue to support the growth of small-scale enterprises to promote economic development. He was speaking at the Africa Business and Kingdom Leadership Summit in Accra.
The summit, co-hosted by the Action Chapel International, was a gathering of business and spiritual leaders with the principle of uniting and accelerating Africa's path to prosperity. The General Overseer of Action Chapel, Archbishop Nicholas Duncan Williams, was confident The summit will enhance Africa's position on the global stage as a formidable business and spiritual powerhouse. President Akufo-Addo reiterated government resolve to support startup businesses to enhance the growth of the economy.
And the economic growth and development of our country depend on how well we nurture and support startups and the micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises to enhance their contribution to GDP, job creation, and exports. Micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises contribute about 70% of Ghana's GDP and account for more than 92% of enterprises. They are the heartbeat of our economy and are at the core of Ghana's private sector.
The summit was under the theme Leading with Purpose and Impact.
In other news, the government will provide the auxiliary infrastructure and services while the private sector manages the factories under the One District, One Factory program. The model is to ensure sustainability of the factories.
I'm here to cut the sword for the construction of the Ekumfi Fruits and Juices Company Limited.
They set the tone for the construction of the first of the 216 factories. 51 are to start by the end of this year. This is the beginning of government's industrialization program. So far, the One District, One Factory Secretariat has received over 400 business proposals for the program. For a proposal to be approved, it has to show the project can create jobs, add value to local materials, have value chain linkages and marketability of the finished products. Proximity to raw materials is key to approving projects.
Apart from the agro businesses or the agribusiness, we are looking at the ICT sector, we are looking at the mineral manufacturing in general. We are also looking at waste management, we are looking at cosmetics. We are looking at a business that will add value to our natural resources, and we are looking at a business that will bring more foreign exchange.
To ensure maximum use of every opportunity, byproducts from one factory will be relied on in sustaining other factories. Major sources of raw materials will be from outgrower schemes, which will ensure several farmers benefit from the value chain. A model that is expected to ensure sustainability will see private sector ownership and management, while government provides other infrastructure and services.
Once it is driven by the private sector, owned by the private sector, then there is the idea of profitability. And that is one key component of sustaining a business. Ensuring that roads leading to these business or factory sites are motorable enough for daily transportation of goods in and out. To also ensure that there is constant flow of water, making sure that there's also availability and affordable supply of electricity.
Under the program, government is not expected to manage the finances of the factories, but provide a supportive environment for sustainability.
And of course, that's how we're wrapping up the show for tonight. Our listeners on 3FM, we're grateful if you watched us on TV3. We're also grateful for your time. Guys here in the studio, the technical team, Christopher Soa, Daniel Latte, my cameraman, James Tete, my soundman, and of course Albert Mensah, John Flagbo, Joshua Atuple, Manasseh Darko, and the show was put together by Samuel Owusu-Entry and Isaac Ameko. Studio director Richard Bruce Lamte. My name is Bright Nanamfo. Have a great evening, but stay right here on TV3. Good night.